Here's what I know. I know that someone about a year and a half ago, someone said, hey, you should go and run a half marathon. And I said, well, how far is that? It's like 13 miles. It's like running from here to the JagWire Center in Kent. So I thought to myself, that's half of a real marathon. I'm only half a runner then. But I decided that I would go ahead and do it, and here's what I know. I know that running is not for me. What I also know is that after I ran the first time, and I went a mile, I thought, man, I just ran a mile. And this is the cool part, is when I ran a mile, I knew that the next time that I wanted to run a mile, that mile became easier. And then I ran 2 miles, and then I ran 2 miles for a while. All of a sudden, 2 miles became easy. Then I went 3 and 4. You probably understand how this works, but here's what I can tell you, is that part of life is understanding that there's these limits that we place on ourselves, right? So here's what we say. We say, hey, I know that my limit is here. And it's not until we are given the opportunity to perform at a level that is here that we realize that our old best is no longer the only thing we're capable of. So for a lot of years, I'll tell you, you are at that point where some of you, and you don't need to raise your hand, but I know that some of you couldn't imagine making it through your sophomore year. And some of you probably thought to yourself a few times this year, maybe you turned 18 and realized maybe that in the end, you're going to work for your dad, or you're going to join the military, do an apprentice class. You know what, maybe a high school diploma isn't that important. But here's what I know. I know that if you equate a half marathon, 13 miles, it's very, very close to 13 years of education you have all gone through. We went through kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Just so you know, if you were running a half marathon, you would be over 12 and a half miles into it right now. 12 and a half. You would be at the point where you've gone through all the pain, you'd be able to look ahead and say, hey, I know that is where the finish line is. And I know it doesn't feel like that to Mila, but let me tell you this, that I know that if Mr. Wardle, I think Mr. Webb has run a few marathons in his day, and Mr. Wardle, how many marathons have you done, Wardle? 11 times. Yeah, let's hear it for that. Man. And he's an old man. Yeah? How old are you, Wardle? 66. When was the last time you did one? 5 months ago. Let's hear it for Wardle. Yeah. Let me tell you this. Who thinks that it would be raise your hand, either hand, doesn't matter, if you think it'd be absolutely insane if at the 12 and a half mile mark, if you all of a sudden saw the finish line, you thought to yourself, nah. I went 12 and a half miles. I mean, that would be ridiculous, would it not? So here's what I'm telling you. I know right now that some of you, I get it. I spent this morning talking about AP psychology class all about stress. You know what stress is. There's 3 types. There's catastrophes, right? Your house catches on fire. Your car gets stolen. There's some other things which are life changes. You know that, hey, right now, some of you may be going through a life change, like, hey, perhaps your parents are going through a divorce. Perhaps you are faced with a decision where your parents say you need to move out. Perhaps some of you are worried about going to college because you're going to move out and you're going to go somewhere else. Those are life changes. And the third thing which you have, the third time it starts, you have catastrophes, life changes, and here's the last one, hassles. So here's what I'm going to tell you. We're going to spend the next hour, hopefully, changing your thought about doing the portfolio, your exit interview, and your senior board, and change that from a hassle into something which is easy to do, Something which, with a little bit of planning and preparation, will be a piece of cake. So guess what? When you're in that last half mile before graduation, what's the day of the graduation again? June 13th, is that right? So, whoa, we're back. So here's what I'll tell you. So rather than looking at graduation as, hey, I'm almost there, but I'm going to get derailed by a small hassle, which some of you are considering this, let's look at that as the next challenge. Here's how you deal with stress. This is what the experts say, is you have to be proactive. Who knows what proactive means? Go ahead, Tanis. Yes. Let's hear it for Tanis. Yes. So Tanis just said, hey. Perfect. Thank you. So Tanis just said, hey, being proactive means that you have a plan. Here's what I'm going to tell you. How many of you right now, your plan is to kind of sit here, maybe hang out, and then maybe think about doing this in a few weeks from now? I'm telling you, if this is a hassle, and by the way, if you are in the group of people who still believes this is going to go away, you are fooling yourself. It will not. You will not walk out of here until you've met the requirements of the portfolio and the requirements of the exit interview or the exit presentation, the interview in your case. So don't fool yourself. And here's what I'll tell you. Either you are someone that today will spend your time wisely and you'll decide, I'm going to get after it, I'm going to start, or here's what you're going to do. You're going to sit there, and as a defense mechanism of stress, you're going to deny that this is a reality, and you're going to kind of go, well, I've got more time. I've got more time. You don't. The time is now. You are 12 and a half miles in. You have to be prepared. Now, let me tell you this. Raise your hand if you're doing the exit interview. Ah, good. You should be, because you're here. Here's the problem. Most of you are here, not always, because you believe this is easier. I'm going to warn you. In my own opinion, but we're all different, I think you've probably made a choice which leads you down a path to believe you can show up at your practice speech and your senior boards, answer 4 questions, and you'll be just fine. It is wrong. That thought is wrong. Today, the number one thing is this, is we are going to start preparing and writing your answers to your exit interview questions today. That's why we're here. When you walk out of here, you should have a clear picture of what you're going to say. If you're smart and you do what I tell you to do today, you'll walk out of here at 10:45, maybe you'll leave at 10:40, and at 10:40 you'll walk out and you'll have an outline of the 10-minute interview that you're going to do on April 30th and May 1st, which is going to be the key to you graduating. But you have to be willing to do the work. And you have to be willing to listen to the training that we're giving you today and then go through and put forth time and effort. How many of you are kind of like, man, I got to be here right now? Ugh. Honesty, I love it, okay? I get it. So here's the thing, Dalton. Dalton's hands up. Dalton, here's what I would agree, right? There he is. Thank you. Dalton, you going to Central next year? You going to Central next year? Oh, okay, cool. Here's what I'll tell you. For a lot of you can sit down, Dalton, you're good to go. No matter what, you are here for the next hour. So if you want to, an hour, this is the one time you're probably going to have an hour to work on this exit interview, where I will walk you through and you'll have time to work on it. Why not use that time now and be productive, rather than say, hey, I can do this on my own? Because how many of you have said, I can do my hours later. I can do my this later, and it's still not done? I'm telling you, take advantage of this time. All right, here we go. Are you ready? All right, this is the Class of 2015 Exit Interview Training. Question, go ahead. They are making copies right now, because your advisor should have had them for you. So if they didn't, hang tight. We will get you one. You will be fine. I promise. Okay. Let's get started here. Here's the first thing. The number one question is, what is my job on April 30th and May 1st? Just so you know, your job is to do what it says up there in the orange box. This is your purpose. Your job is to showcase your high school experience. That's going to involve 4 questions. We'll go through those one at a time. It's also going to involve showing us your portfolio. We want to know about you. Here's the common mistake people make when they do the interview. If you don't prepare, if you don't plan, if you don't go through and sketch out some answers, you will not meet the time. You'll end up doing your practice speech 4 or 5 times, and it's going to be miserable. I will tell you this, the people in my experience, in the last 9 years that I've done them here, the last 15 years I've been doing this process, I'd be willing to bet that I pass people who do the presentation, not what you all have chosen. At least 95% of the time, I pass people who do the presentation the first time they do the practice speech or the practice presentation. I bet you I fail 95% of the people who choose an interview which you all have chosen. It is not because you can't do it. The number one reason why many of you will not pass your first practice interview is because you won't prepare. You need to make sure that much like preparing for a 10-minute speech or a 10-minute presentation, you also are preparing for a 10-minute speech, a 10-minute presentation, but the only difference is yours is broken up because someone is asking you 4 different questions. And those questions should be thought about, they should be written down somewhere, and they should be practiced. All right? Now, Mr. Webb, don't worry. As he gets close to you, he will walk around, just kind of slip your hand up, and Mr. Webb will pass one down to you. All right? Don't worry about shouting out. He's going to get to you. All right? So when he gets close to you, you can give him a big wave. So you've got 4 questions. Oh, man. Where are all the packets? Someone stole them. All right, let's start with this. So as you walk in, don't worry, they're just passing out papers. They will get those to you, I promise. Be patient. Here's a few things. Let's get the easy stuff out of the way. Your initial impression is important. It's important that you know that how you dress and how you introduce yourself has an impact on how you are evaluated. I would love to say that, hey, everyone takes everyone else at face value. It doesn't work that way. We know that. So your initial impression is very, very important. Here's a few things, all right? Number 1, please make sure that you are on time. If there's a day where you don't want to be late or you don't want to just forget something, it is April 30th, it is May 1st, whatever day you're scheduled, you need to make sure you are on time that day. The other part of that is this, all right? Guess what? A lot of you right now, I get it, you're on your phone. It's a security blanket. I was talking the other day about someone that, some of you might know Mr. Bellery from Glacier View. Like in the late 90s, we told our moms, hey, we're driving across the country. Well, I guess south. We're going to spring training. See ya. No phones. My mom said, okay, I love you. And she said, watch out for deer. And I was like, what? Like that was her parting advice. Watch out, there could be deer in the road. I was like, okay. But we took off. And I know this is a comfort thing for you, but guess what? Put this away on that day. Turn it off. If something's going to happen, we will make sure that you get the message from your parents, whoever it's going to be. So turn it off. Don't let this be a distraction on that day. So no cell phones, no gum. Guess what? If you are thirsty, walk in with a bottle of water. You don't need the 42-ounce Monster. All right? You don't need it because A, it's going to get you all hyped up, and B, you just don't need that much sugar ever. All right? It's bad for your heart. Next one, dress professional. We're going to go through that in a minute about what that looks like. Do we need some more copies still? Who doesn't have one still? All right, we'll get some more copies to you. We're getting one. The next one is something called poise. Make sure that you walk in, you're confident, and you're ready to go. All right, here we go. Let's do this. A few things about dress. Some of this might be on your list. Make sure you dress for success. How you dress tells a lot about your intentions for the day. How many of you on your practice speech intend on walking in and passing the first time? Good. How many of you, when you do your senior board on April 30th or May 1st, plan on passing that? Okay? Then dress your intentions. Just dress your intentions, which means if you intend to pass, dress like it. It's the same thing. If you intend to go get a job, dress like it. If you intend to race a NASCAR, then dress like it. If you intend to play in a sport event, dress like it. This is no different. Wear the proper attire. Next one, so it should fit well, it should remain in place when sitting and walking. So if you're wearing something, you try it on that morning, and guys, you have a problem because it keeps slipping up or whatever it's doing, or you're doing a lot of this the whole time, right? I've seen that a lot. Well, hey, doing my interview and a lot of pulling that down, putting that where it's supposed to go, right? Change. So here's the thing, and the key with this is don't let your clothing say more about you than what you're going to say about yourself. That's the key. Speak for yourself. Let all the questions and your answers about your high school experiences, what you've done, let that speak for what you have accomplished, not, hey, look at me. All right? Now, and you all look great, we'll talk about that a little more. So here's some examples, you'll see in a second. There's my shadow. Here's E.T. Oh, not bad, huh? All right. Remind me of some other ones later. I'll just do it now. Not bad. All right. A couple things. Obviously, over large, bright, patterned colors. Keep your fishnets and crazy stockings at home. I know those are fashionable. I get it. I don't have that in my repertoire for knowledge. But make sure, a couple things at the bottom is shoes can be a big deal. If your thought is, hey, I'm ready for my exit interview, where are my flip-flops? That's bad, all right? Try and find some shoes which look the part. Sound good? And you know what that looks like. I know you do. Here's some examples about what to wear. Notice the length. Notice the pose. We got a jacket up there, that's nice. These would be more than acceptable outfits you can wear. Sound good? You might say, Brooke, are you sure? Here's some other options. Oh wait, this is what not to wear. So, and we see this. People show up with shorts, people show up with, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. You guys wearing, what's he wearing there? Seriously, is he popping his collar? Are those puka shells in there? I think so. If you wear jeans over the shirt with a tie, you have to do like this at some point in time. That's a rule. Hey. So make sure you avoid that. So in review, here are some things you might wear. Business casual, business professional. Okay, dress the part. Next thing, all right, if you need some help with this, would you please ask someone? Some of you, and I get it, and I'm not someone who just goes, well, hey, just go home and grab your nice clothes. You might say, Brooke, a couple problems with that. First problem is, I don't have those clothes. Some of you might be saying, hey, guess what? My dad doesn't have those clothes either. I can't borrow them. Hey, my friends are nowhere near my size. Hey, Brooke, you're an idiot. I don't even have a house. Shut up. Okay, I know you giggle about that, but that's the reality for some students who go through here. And I know and maybe you don't, that's not you, but it's someone. It's someone, okay? And I want to make sure that you understand that we want to take care of you. We want to help you look the part for that day. So see myself, see Mrs. McMullen, okay? Administration will be good to go. All right, so let's talk about your visual aid. Here's the number one thing. People make the mistake. How many of you have your portfolio ready to go for the 20th? Anyone? All right, yes, 10 of you. Woo! Good. How many of you still looking to do some community service hours? What? Uh-oh. Okay. Better get on that. The time's now, people. I promise you. All right, so let's talk about your portfolio. Here's a couple things. Yeah, and some more. Why don't you just, right behind you there. If you need one, we'll put them right here on the rail. So we have them for next week as well. So your portfolio. Here's the thing, your portfolio is important. This interview should go through and have a chance for you to display some parts of your portfolio. This should be an integral part. It is your visual aid. What I would tell you is this: if you don't make a plan to use this thing, then you're not going to use it. As you plan today, I'm going to ask you to think about and make notes of specific parts of your portfolio which you're going to want to talk about when you answer certain questions. This needs to be central to your interview. One of the main reasons people fail. So, Brooke, tell me how I don't fail this. One of the ways you don't fail is you don't fail if you use this. If for whatever reason you walk in and this thing's done and you set it on the table and you walk in and you answer 4 questions and you say, thank you for your time, I'll see you later, guess what? There's a good chance someone will say, hey, we don't even have any examples of your best works. We don't have examples of your, we didn't see anything about your letter of reflection. We don't know about your community service stuff. We want to see you use this in your interview questions. What you say is what you say. What you say when you use the evidence is powerful and it's truth. So use it. So the portfolio needs to be the main focus of the interview. The next thing, Bill said, hey, can I meet the time? Here's the big question. How much time do you have to fill for the interview? Yeah, 10 to 15 minutes. Now I know that people say, wait, what? 10 to 15, that's so long. Thank you. Tennis. Well done. Yeah, I like the truth. No, it's not. Now, here's what you're going to do, all right? If you know you need to have 10 to 15 minutes, and that's not including the follow-up questions, because sometimes you're not going to get very many. So it's going to be 10 minutes minimum of information and things that you say. Don't plan, bless you, don't plan for 8 and hope you get there. Plan for 10. It's going to be way easier to cut stuff off than it will be to add stuff kind of midstream. Oh, and now let's talk about my favorite ant. My favorite ant is the red ant. The red ant lives in trees. You guys say like your aunt, your sister, right? Gotcha. So, you want to make sure that you plan, because if you plan more, you can cut. If you don't plan enough, it gets real tough to pass. So here's how you break it down. Introduction. Hey, shoot for a minute. Probably that's going to be too long. Hi, my name is so-and-so. People say, well, what can I do with that? Well, part of introduction, and it depends when they start the time, is going to be when you walk in, there's going to be a head judge. There's going to be a table, probably a chair around the table, and guess what? That one's yours. And it used to be that I would set one up here so you could see it, but we have a lot of stuff up here. And so what's going to happen, you're going to walk in and say, what is this going to look like, Gilbert? You're going to walk in, there's going to be a table, a space for your portfolio, and a chair. There's going to be probably a group of tables, maybe 2 or 3 tables with 3 or 4 chairs. Behind them, probably at least 2 teachers, and at a very minimum, 1 person from the community, maybe even 2. A few years ago, it was me, Mr. Merck, the superintendent of schools, and someone from like the city council. And we walked in, I was like, uh-oh. Even I was nervous. And I was just a judge. And those kids walked in, and they knew who the superintendent was. And they didn't know who the city council person was, but they said, hey, I'm a city council rep for the city of Puyallup. They were kind of, and I was like, and I'm Mr. Mulebrook. And the kids were all like, whew. Because Merck was the head judge, and he can be, well, he's great, right? So, you're going to walk in, you're going to have 3 or 4 people there, you're going to set your portfolio down. At that point in time, they're going to start to ask you questions. Before you even ask the questions, you're going to walk in, you're going to introduce yourself and say, hey, my name is. You're going to shake every single hand. And you don't want to miss anyone. Make sure you go down the line and say, hey, my name is, and they'll say, hey, my name is, what? That's all right. Somebody's like, oh yeah. So you need to shake every single hand all the way down and make sure you introduce people, all right? And that's your first impression. Practice it. Shake someone's hand at your house. Shake some friends' hands. Have a have an interview practice party one night. Come on over, all right? Tyler, you okay? All right. So here's the breakdown. Say, how do I get this done? Here's what you do. You should plan to make sure you have enough information to cover at least these minimum amount of times. So background, at least 2 minutes. Community experience, at least 2 minutes, probably gonna be more. What you did, who your mentor was, your time log, what was good, what was bad. Your evidence of learning, 3 to 4 minutes. Your post-high plan, at least probably 2 to 3 minutes for that. And then probably another 3 minutes for the questions at the end, but you wouldn't include those 3 minutes at the end as part of your time. You need to get 10 minutes on the 4 main questions, which we're going to begin going through here in a minute. All right, here's a big question. All right, so what will I get asked? There's gonna be 4 questions. In your packet, you should have those 4 questions. I believe, if you look at it, it starts on the 2nd page. So you have the front, and then you open it up and you'll see there are 4 questions. There's 2 on each of these 2 pages. Top, bottom, top, bottom. These are the 4 we're going to be going through and working on today. This will be your first rough draft outline that if you work hard today, you will walk out with an outline for what you're going to say. Now, if you are convinced that you've got all kinds of time, I'm telling you, you don't. I would also tell you, even if your portfolio's not done, don't be one of those people who say, well, my portfolio's not done, so I can't even plan my speech. No. All right? You can do this now. Be productive. So there's 4 questions. We're going to go through those, and at the end of each question, you might get some questions of clarification. If you do a really good job, they probably won't. If you answer all parts of it, they'll say, okay, great. Moving on. Question 2. And they'll ask you question 2. Now, you should expect that they're going to ask those 4 questions. They might ask you a question of clarification after each question. Hopefully not. You can expect at a minimum they're going to ask you questions when you are all done. So that's what it's going to look like. So sometimes your time might be quite a bit longer because they'll ask you questions all the way through. All right, so the question is this, why do I have to complete this Culminating Project? Why? What are they doing to us? There's all kinds of things about this. Why would it's going away? It's not. Okay? You have to complete the portfolio and the Culminating Project, which includes this exit interview. You have to. Now, a couple things. There's all kinds of myths. Well, I heard that if you don't do this, then eventually they just kind of pass you. They don't. And if you heard that from someone last year, they're probably too embarrassed to tell you the truth, which was when you were sleeping on a Saturday, they were here. Working from 8 to noon on a Saturday morning. But they don't want to tell you that. They probably don't want to tell you that, remember when the night before graduation practice, when everyone else is kind of like, hey, last day of school, we're kind of hanging out, reminiscing, or going to senior sunset. Maybe they weren't there because guess what? They were told, finish your portfolio, pass the speech, bring it tomorrow morning to graduation practice. And that's what they were doing. So don't be that person. It doesn't go away. You need to make sure that you plan accordingly. Use the time now. You're 12 and a half miles in. All right? You're almost there. Make sure you are productive. So the reality is it's not going away. Okay? And I'll tell you this. There will be some of you that even though you hear this and you have the best intentions, you will wait. If you wait, the lines will get long. And when all of a sudden you're like, hey, Mr. Muehlbrook, I need to go see Mrs. McMullen because I need to fix this part of my portfolio. You're going to walk down there and all of a sudden it's going to be real urgent for you. You know what I'm talking about? Well, I have to do this. And you're going to realize that you're in a line 15 people deep with the same concerns. And you're going to say to yourself, man, I wish I wouldn't have waited. Be smart about this. The number one reason to do this now and to turn it in is because guess what? It's going to be less time and less of a headache if you do things on time. Here's a mistake people make. Hey, so I didn't turn my portfolio in on time, so you turn it in a week late. This is a big one about portfolios. I've been turning it in a week late. Then all of a sudden you turn your portfolio in a week late, and then the next day, You turned in at 5th after lunchtime to me, to Mr. Miller. Hey, Mr. Miller, here's my portfolio. I know it's a week late. Do you think I could get that after school? No, I can't. I'm not going to get this to you after school. Because guess what? For a week, I've been waiting for this thing. And now, on your schedule, you want it now? Doesn't work that way. If you turn your portfolio in for like a week late for me, then I think I should have at least a week to get it back to you. But then all of a sudden, I can't do my practice speech because you won't turn my portfolio back into me. You won't correct it. Oh, that's my problem now? Because now, all of a sudden, it's urgent for you. Put the urgency on it now. And that's going to be today. Be urgent in how you prepare today. Be urgent when you leave here about making sure that you finish those last 5 community service hours. Finish them. Just go and do it. Because guess what? Down the road, it's going to take you more time when you are in a line with 50 other people who all of a sudden understand how urgent this really is. And if you want to save yourself time, do it on schedule. Make sense? Okay. So, here's the reality. The reality is that everything is just fine. Maybe I have said a lot of things like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? You'll be fine, okay? But you're only going to be fine if you get after it and start producing. Right, Michael McGee? Yeah. All right. So let's talk about these questions. All right, and how it works. The first things first, Thursday interview, we talked about this. You come in, you shake hands, all right? Hi, my name is. You listen for the judge's name, you say, hey, pleased to meet you. Thanks for being here today. Just say some things which sound really nice. Sometimes we walk in, and here's what I'll tell you. It's going to be your decision about how you want this to go. There's 2 types of people who come into the room. People who do this are kind of like, hey. And they kind of give you this hand, like, hi. My name's Ben, right? Or people just walk in and say, guess what? This is simply a handshake. You walk in. Hi, my name's Ben. They say their name. Hey, my name's John. My name's Sandy. Hi, Sandy, nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. Hi, my name's Ben. Well, hi, my name's Jill. Hi, Jill. Nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. Hi, my name's Ben. I know who you are. Right? I'm your neighbor. Oh, yeah! I didn't even recognize you. You look great. Right? Thanks for being here today. You walk around, you sit down, you open your portfolio, you sit up straight, and next thing you know, you are ready to answer your first question. So, usually there's going to be one judge who leads the interview, asks the questions. Sometimes they'll spread the questions out. Here's your first thing, the first question. It looks just like this in your folder or in your packet. Would you agree? So let's start working on it. Here's the deal. The question is, tell us a little about yourself. How has your background and school experiences influenced your development as a person? Now, here's what I will tell you. This is not your opportunity to share everything which has ever gone wrong in your life. Well, 7th grade, I slipped in the ice. Because I got some of those too. You want to hear a funny one? Yeah. I was in the orchestra, played the bass. Yep. For a long time I thought that I was just really good at playing the violin, that I was so good that I should be a good candidate to play the bass. And when I got older, I thought, you know what? If I was so good at the violin, maybe I should have kept playing the violin. Then I realized I was the tallest kid in the orchestra, and I was the only kid that could carry a bass around because it was big. Here's what I'll tell you. So 7th grade, we had a substitute teacher. We're walking around, hanging out, okay, not going on, there's a piano. And I decided that, like Jerry Lee Lewis, I was going to slide across the piano and play the keys with my bottom. The problem is there's a hook, right? And the hook is when you pull the thing over the keys and the hook comes up. But I did not slide with the hook, I slid against the hook. The hook grabbed onto my pocket, my pants, and ripped the whole bottom of my jeans right off. So I had like a 4-inch hole. Hey, Tannis, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm just going to show you. And it ripped off the whole part, and I stood there like, all right? Not a good situation, all right? Now, is that an entertaining story? Sure, not bad, but let me ask you this. Is it probably a good time to tell that story in your interview? No, all right? We want to know a little bit about your background, about your school experience, so please, don't use this as a time to go through all those funny stories, all the things that happened to you bad. Okay, we want to know about you. Here's some things that are interesting. Here's a mistake I made. I had a kid. I didn't have a kid. I've had 2 kids. This is not a kid I had. There's a student in my class. Coolest introduction ever. He walks in, he was doing the presentation interview, and he stands there, and all of a sudden he says, okay, he said, okay, well, whenever you're ready, go get started. And he stops, and he starts to unbutton his shirt, and I'm like, uh-oh. And he unbuttons his shirt, just the top 2 buttons to about here, and he goes like this, and he pulls open, and he's got this huge scar tissue right along his heart, like right here. And we stopped and we looked at him. Now, here's what he said. He goes, I'm showing you this because I want you to know that I'm 1 in 50 million. About 1 in 50 million people were born with the heart disease that I have. And he goes, what people don't know about me, and he was a great kid, was that I shouldn't have made it. And he went through in his introduction, short, concise, yet powerful. It was real quick, here's what it is, right? So some things we want to hear about you are, hey, maybe you moved 4 times. Maybe you spent the first 8 hours or the first 8 years of your life in Germany. Maybe you've moved 7 times in the last 7 years because of your family's work situation. Okay, those are some things we say, but we don't want to hear why everything's so bad. We want to hear about why that's important to know about you, your background, right? So, how has your background and your school experiences influenced your development as a person? That's what we want to know. Now, you might say, what can I answer? What do I do? How do I answer that? Well, here's some things you can use for deciding what your answer is going to be. If you've already done these things, then guess what? You're probably going to be well on your way. So you can look at information that's in your personal essay, something you wrote about. You can also look at things from your letter of introduction, which you all hopefully are in the process of writing to introduce yourself when you look at your portfolio. Also, if you have a resume, you might talk about a job, you might talk about some other qualifications you have. Those sort of things are all things that we would probably want to hear about in that first question. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, all right? 2 minutes. Then all I want you in 2 minutes is just going to be quiet. And I'm going to play a song. Don't know what song it's going to be. Pandora's going to choose for us. And I'm going to play the song, and probably when the song's over, then we'll resume back what we're doing. But I just want you to, if you don't want to write and plan and work right now on these questions, then please don't distract someone else. Let them spend the time wisely. Sound good? So, what might you talk about? What is your background? What are your school experiences that have shaped who you are as a person? Sound good? All right, 2 minutes. Share some sort of a generic topic. Please don't share exactly what you said, but if you've got a generic topic that you talked about, so maybe it was a work experience, or what are some of those things you might say in this? Any ideas? What's that? Divorce. Okay. Maybe what it's been like to try and grow up in two homes at the same time. Okay. What else? Go ahead. So a program which has impacted, right? So junior, what's it say? Officer Trey, yes. Tyler, go ahead.
I said moving states.
Yeah, moving states, right? Where were you before here? California. Yes, yeah, I know to me. All right, go Raiders, right? Okay. Yeah, I know. Good. Yep. So kind of perhaps some situations, bullying, things that make you introvert, some introversion you have. How do you put yourself out there now? Okay, good. What else? Hold on a sec. Shh. One more time.
Surviving an illness.
Ah, okay, an illness. Good. You got one?
I was told school has been
Excellent. Good. All right, wait one more. Go ahead. What's that? Yeah, coping with the disorder, for sure. All right, let's go to question number 2. We'll have time, more time to share later on. So here's question number 2. This one, all right, is a little bit more straightforward in that there's not as much freedom in this. Now, how you answer is still your choice, but this is very much about a topic which we have to know about. You must address question 2, much like all the questions, in your interview to make sure you pass. Here's question number 2. Tell us about your community experience project. Please describe your experience and reflect on what you learned about yourself and the community. Now, here's what I can tell you. Here's some things people forget, and you can make some notes on this. The things people forget to tell us are why they chose it. So sometimes people are like, I went and volunteered at a soup kitchen, and I did dishes. And when the dishes were done, I taught some people, and yeah. Okay, that's not going to cut it. Okay, we want to know why you chose what you chose. And your honesty is appreciated, which means sometimes it's going to be, hey, for my community experience, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My friend was going to go work and volunteer as a youth coach for T-ball. So I decided to go and help him out. We worked with a mentor coach. We were there on Tuesdays and Thursdays for practice for 2 hours for 4 weeks. At the end of that, we were there for every single game. Now here's where we want to know more. Here is what I learned. I learned that I like to work with children. I learned that I like to be outdoors. I learned that sometimes it's difficult to deal with parents. But ultimately, I know that the most important part of my 20 hours were that I had an impact on those young T-ball players. Because when I was done, they gave me a thank you letter. One little boy almost had a tear in his eye because I wouldn't be his coach anymore and baseball was, whatever it may be. But those are some things that we want to hear about. So you have to describe your experience. Tell us what you did. I worked in a soup kitchen. Not good enough. Okay, tell us where it was. Tell us who your mentor was. Tell us how you found out about it. Okay, all that good stuff. And the last one is, what did you learn about yourself and the community is also a big part of this. Is what did you learn about community experience? Did you know that Washington State has more people in the Peace Corps, okay, than any other state in the United States of America? Did you know that? Did you know that UW, the University of Washington, is ranked number 2 for community service nationwide in the D1 schools? Do you know that Gonzaga is like in the top 5. Western Washington University also in the top 3 or 4 for universities its size. We do more community service from Washington State than any other state in the United States, and I really do believe this is part of it. Oliver, go ahead. The goals and objectives? What do you mean? Yep. Yeah, what you would write there is ultimately when you started, what did you want to get out of it? And this is a good one too. So if you talk about this, okay, what was when you started it, what did you want to get out of it? And for a lot of you, it's going to be probably what you actually got out of it is going to be different. And we want to hear those things. We want to hear how it impacted you. Sound good? All right, so any questions on that question at all before we get to some work time? Questions at all? Okay, so here we go. Some things make sure you want to add. You can use your mentor evaluation. Obviously, look at your hours. If your hours are from 5 to 8 a.m. every Saturday, that can be something we want to know about. You got up early. You can look at your community service reflection paper. That if you have your community service hours passed, you probably have that done. You can make direct reference to your portfolio. Here's my time log. Here's my mentor evaluation. Some of the comments my mentor said about me is whatever. And then also, if you have a varsity letter, you can probably tell us what that process was like. Because a lot of people in the community might not know what a varsity letter in community service is. You can tell them about United Way. You can tell them how many hours you did. So tell us about that process. Sound good? Go ahead, Tannis. If you have, I think that it, okay, let's say this. Hey, how many of you got a 9th grade varsity or letter in community service in 9th grade? But you've since then, or maybe in sophomore year, but you've used different hours for this? If that's the case, I think it's very much worth mentioning that your community service started when you were in 9th grade, when you worked with, you know, whatever. I think that'd be a good thing, so it's okay to mention that. Sound good? All right, here we go. So here's some word time. I'll give you about 2 minutes. I'll play some other song from Braveheart or something, and then we'll get going. So please, use your time wisely. Somebody. So this is the most complicated. This is the one where if you were trying to be able to, I want to refocus. Now is the time to do it, because this one will drive you nuts if you don't listen. Here's the deal. There is 4 parts to this question. Hopefully. Hold on. This. Go! All right, here we go. So here is question number 3. This one's important, all right? So this is all about showing us examples about your best works. Here's what you need to understand. If you look at your packet for this question, this is the most confusing by far. It's also the question that's most likely to trip someone up and have them not do well at it. If you read the question, so it says, question 3 at the top of the page, follow along. Please show us some examples of your work throughout high school that demonstrate your ability to, and it has 4 items. So you need to go through and talk about 4 assignments, 4 different assignments. One assignment must show how you have the ability to, 1, complete a research project. Number 2, you must show another assignment, number 2, the second assignment, which shows you have the ability to analyze and solve complex problems. Number 3, you must show that you have the ability to think creatively and to be innovative. And number 4, you must show the ability to go through and communicate and collaborate. Let's go through those one at a time with some examples. So here we go. The ability to go through and successfully complete a research project. Ding, 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 ding. This one's important. This one is a great time filler. If you can't figure out how to complete 10 minutes for an interview, spend more time on this. Because this might have been your most lengthy thing you did for any of these assignments. It might not be, but this is a great one. Because you can talk about your research paper. A few things about that you talk about, which might take even 2 minutes, is, hey, my research topic was this. And tell us about the topic. You might say things like, hey, I started out and I believe this. I got some research, and you tell us what the research said, and since then I've changed my mind. My view was broadened, whatever it may be. But now we want to know about what you think about the topic. We also want to know about the actual process of doing research. Tell us what you did. So I got on Google and found a bunch of stuff? No. So I was doing some online research. Google. And in my online research, I found that there was a whole bunch of different opinions about anorexia and bulimia. There's all kinds of opinions about the benefits and the negative aspects of using nuclear energy. Whatever it may be, you know what your paper is about. You can fill time about the process and the topic, about what you feel the topic, by spending some time with this question. Was it easy? Was it hard? Was it difficult? The writing, all that stuff. The second part. So part B is the ability to go through and analyze and solve complex problems. You might use a test. Maybe it's your calculus test. Maybe it was hard. Maybe to go through and do a DBQ or a CBA, and to go through and figure out a way to analyze and solve a complex problem. This might even be your quals. Anybody do quals in chemistry? Hey, I tell you what, that seems pretty complex, doesn't it? So, how do you do quals? All right, would be a good one. How do you solve and complete the problem? That's question part B. Part C is to think creatively and to be innovative. You might have a poem you wrote. You might have something you designed. It might be an AutoCAD project that you did. For creatively, maybe you did something in the fine arts. Maybe you went through and wrote your own song for choir, or you composed your own music for a solo piece in orchestra. Show us those things. We'd love to see it. Because it shows how you are thinking creatively and being innovative. Maybe it's even an experiment. Maybe you did an experiment and you kind of designed an experiment. That also could be innovation. And the last part, which is part D, is the ability to communicate and collaborate. Boy, if you had an assignment which shows how you had to work with other people, some sort of a group assignment would be an awesome example. Maybe there's a presentation or a performance where you go through and show how well you can communicate. Hey, I did a speech in Mr. Tavern's class my sophomore year, or maybe I did a speech or a monologue which I had to write in Stagecraft, where it's going to be. Those would all be good examples. You got 2 minutes, and in those 2 minutes, I want you to go through and try and figure out what 4 assignments at this point in time you would use for each of these 4 categories. 2 minutes, use your time wisely. You're going to have to do this eventually. Do it now. Ready, set, go. Are you ready? Question number 4. So this is going to be the crowning achievement of your interview. This one is all about telling us where you are going from here. Here's the number 1 complaint I have about the Culminating Project. I wish that this was an entrance interview, where we wouldn't let you graduate unless you passed this interview on your way in as a sophomore. Because almost every time someone does this interview and I hear it, I always look to myself and say, man, I wish I would have known this about you 3 years ago. Because this would have changed perhaps our interactions. It would have changed perhaps how you dealt with me or how I dealt with you. It would have made me understand a little bit more about you as a person. So here's what I can tell you. One of the most important things we want to hear when you walk out of here is that you have something to do. Can I tell you something, to be real honest with you? I understand that a lot of you are terrified. You're terrified. Because here's the deal. Either you're going to be one of 2 people. Someone who walks out of here, you're prepared, you're going to enter the real world, you're going to go get a job, get an apprenticeship, you're going to go to Bates or to a college, you're going to go to the military, whatever. Or you're going to graduate on Saturday, and by Tuesday, you're going to show up here because you don't have a plan. And all you know is about, hey, I'm going to come back and just be at school. So although I know some of you are terribly excited, some of you are terribly terrified because you're leaving. And I get that. What we want to know is this, is that one of the best ways to prepare for the future is to actually think about it and do something. We want to know what that something is. Where do you go from here? What is your plan? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through an answer question, which means, okay, first of all, let's look at it, the exact text of it. Here it is. What are your future goals? What do you want out of life? Here's the problem. Can I tell you that the number 1 job I have by far, is that I'm a parent. When I was your age, I had no idea. It wasn't until the day my son was born that I realized that, but that's it. And if some of you say, hey, you know what, one of my big goals down the road is to have a family, then tell us about that. We want to know. There's my future goals. I want to have a family. I want to go and I want to travel. I want to get a degree at Pierce or at Bates or at Green River because I want to go and I want to do dental hygiene. I want to become a mechanic. I want to open up my own shop. Okay, these are all realistic things that we want to know about. And we probably do you a disservice by thinking that everyone walks out here, but here's what I can tell you. There are so many cool, skilled jobs out there that I want you to know that whatever your dream, whatever your passion is, okay, I'm going to find interest in that. I am. You cannot tell me about your dream and have me like, boy, I am so not interested in that. I would be interested. Because if you're passionate about it, it's a cool thing. That's the reality. Hey, I want to go, and I have a friend from high school, pretty cool, said, hey, I'm going to go and I want to work in animation. So his post-high plan when he walked out of high school was this. What's your post-high plan? I'm moving to California and I've got a job as a character at Disneyland. Now you might say, oh really? That's your career path? You're gonna be like Pinocchio? But here's what I can tell you now. Guess what he does now? Now he lives in Los Angeles and he creates animated shows for television. Or Mad TV, where I watch TV sometimes, or I see some sort of random show, and I'll see his name come across the credits. Like, oh yeah, hey, there's Steve. He's doing it. Right? We want to know what those things are for all of you. So, and the next part of that is how's it preparing you for the future? All right? And then what are your next steps? What are you going to do from here? Where do you see yourself this fall, and where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, we're not going to have a chance to work on this because I want you to do that on your own when you get a chance. But we're going to do a few details, and then we're going to wrap up and get out. Here's the first one, all right? Oh, not that one. All right, let's get the most important parts. Please make sure that you look at the rubric for the portfolio. Also make sure that you look at the rubric for what you need to do to pass the exit interview. Things like what kind of grammar you use, what kind of voice you use. Here is a word you all need to avoid. It's not a swear word. It's so like, and I like, well, in like 5 years, like I want to go to college and like get a degree and like have a family. Don't do that. The other one is the other one is this: is please don't tell us about an assignment and say, well, just really proud of myself for this math assignment. I'm also proud of myself for my JRP, okay? Listen, if you're proud, we want you to be proud, but be proud in how you talk about it. You don't need to tell us you're proud of yourself. Just go and be proud in how you speak about it. Don't move yet, maybe some very important dates here in just a minute. So, eye contact, voice, grammar, all important things. The next few, make sure your quality of responses. You need to plan this stuff out. How many feel like you walk out here, you have a somewhat of an outline about what your answers are going to be? Good. How many feel like you're probably more prepared than you thought you'd be at the end of the day? Good. I mean, if you sat and did the work, you're probably, okay, I have an idea. It's not so scary. A couple other things, all right? Make sure you relax. Make sure you know your weaknesses and practice them. Let's go this real fast. This is the most important thing I'll tell you, so listen carefully. Ready? Tell someone next to you to be quiet real quick. My mic's now quieter. Weird. Number one thing. Okay, make sure you understand that these dates are important to you. Alright? A couple of things. The first one there, Tuesday, March 10th. It used to be that if you didn't turn your portfolio in a week after they were due, you might finish your portfolio. A week later you would turn it in, and we would have no idea who the person is. That has changed. What is now going to happen is this, is on the 10th, without your portfolio, you will all walk to your evaluator's classroom. You will meet them and say, hi, my name is Marcellus. Hi, my name is Hope. And you're going to introduce yourself and meet your evaluator face to face. Because about 5 years ago, I had a student didn't turn his portfolio in, the problem is he walked by me every single day in the hall, and while I was wondering where his portfolio was, he walked by me 2 or 3 times a day, every day, and finally I tracked him down. I go, dude, I see you every day, like 5 times a day. He's like, I know. I go, why didn't you come and see me? I wasn't done, right? So you're going to meet that person, and we're going to start that relationship. Then on the 17th, or excuse me, on the 20th, you're going to walk over and you're going to hand your portfolio to the person. You're going to give it to them. And guess what? If you, for some reason, don't have your portfolio done the 20th, well, guess what? You're going to have to go through and explain to them, hey, here's why it's not done. Here's the day I'm going to give it to you. It used to be this day we just went to the, over to the library and just kind of dropped it off. Here you go. Or you just didn't show up. No one knows, right? But now, you have to go through and actually give it to them, drop it off their hand. Remember the 26th, I believe this is the day, that date might be wrong, is the day you're going to pick up your portfolio and then start to make the corrections. Now, here's the one thing. A couple of pointers. When you put your portfolio together, would you please make sure that your portfolio is in the exact same order as the rubric? If there are things that are missing, it's better off to be honest about it, say, hey, it's missing these things, I will get those to you as soon as possible. And that is not as good as just having everything done at the beginning. It's finish it, all right? Get that thing ready to go. Because then on April 8th through the 16th, you're gonna do some practice speeches. So your practice speeches are gonna be in either your advisory room, in front of advisory members of your room, or it's going to be in your advisory family's room, in front of sophomores and juniors, which you probably don't know. That's okay. Let me tell you one last thing before I get you out of here. It is important that you understand that the first time you walk in to do your practice speech, that should not be the first time you have practiced your speech. Okay? Don't see it as a practice speech. See it as the qualifying speech. Which means you have to pass that speech in front of a staff member before you are allowed to go and do your senior boards on April 30th and May 1st. So please don't say, oh, it's my first practice. See that as your qualifying speech or your qualifying interview, which means you have practiced at home in front of family or friends or whoever it's going to be. You walk in that day, in your portfolio, it's complete, it's ready to go, and you are ready to say, hey, I can pass this interview, and we will say, good. Here is a certificate. You are now qualified to go and do the senior boards. Make sense? If you have questions, people, ask me. You can do it. I know there's a lot of talking today, but you will be fine as long as you get started. Hey, you guys were fabulous. Thank you for being a great audience. Thanks for working so hard. You're good. Yeah.